fascinating and charismatic, these scaly-skinned mammals are one of the world's most elusive creatures. Here are some unique facts about pangolins. Pangolins have long, sticky tongues that can grow up to a third of their body length. This is to help scoop up their prey. Pangolins walk on their knuckles so they can protect their claws. A baby pangolin is called a pango pup, and it rides on its mother's back for the first year of its life. A pangolin is the most heavily trafficked wild mammal in the world and is seriously threatened by extinction. Join 4 leading conservation specialists live on Saturday, June 5th as they discuss this unique animal and the threats it is faced with. The Mara Triangle is a jewel in the Kenyan conservation crown, and thanks to the dedication of the Mara Conservancy, it thrives as one of Earth's greatest national treasures.
We have been experiencing a reduction in the wire snails that we collect on a monthly basis, and this is basically attributed to our intense patrols.
Over the years, this courageous team of anti-poachers has reduced poaching to almost zero.
Mimi naitwa Stephen Olereso. Nimefanya kazi miaka 16 sasa, kuanzia miaka 2002. Hao wanadamu ni wenye utua sana sana inaogofya ni wale wenye wanaenda kama ndovu. Wanatumia kama bunduki. Sasa hiyo ndio huwa inakuanga hatari sana sana kwa sisi.
As a result of the global pandemic and the massive reduction in tourist revenue, the Mara Triangle is facing a financial crisis. They need your help if they are to continue their ability to protect this magical land.
I'm Nikki here at Ambion Ngala in South Africa. I love getting questions from viewers about all the small things within the environment and how it all is integrated with one another. If you want to ask me any questions, please simply register with the Wild Earth website, head across to the Live Safari page, and then post your questions there. I'm looking forward to chatting to you on my next Wild Earth drive.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, everyone. A very warm welcome to Dewdrop Private Game Reserve. It really is not that chilly this morning. Of course, it's winter here, and some mornings there's a definite bite in the air that is actually quite painful to breathe, but not this morning. So we've just stopped to admire the grey skies. It's been very, very overcast, but I think that sun is going to burst through and it's going to be a glorious day. We will be coming to you live from many different locations across South Africa. I'm back on board. I'm very excited. I hope you are. So get ready, everyone. It's time for your live bumble through the bush. Welcome aboard, everyone. I'm glad you decided to jump on board with us. It's most likely going to be bumpy, but, you know, I'm very glad you're here all the same. And for those who don't know me, my name is Lauren, and I do have Davy on camera. Trishala and Steve did leave yesterday, so we have a new team on board. So that means that I'm going to try and reacquaint myself with the reserve. You lose touch. I was only away for 2 weeks, but you lose touch, and you've got to try and figure out what's happening now that it's winter and where all the animals are moving. So we're almost at the hyena den, believe it or not. Of course, I'm going to check the hyena den first. And I don't have much hope, but I'm still going to check and see if any of the Dewdrop clan are around. I have missed them terribly, I'm sure you all have too. But before I forget, the safari is live and interactive. That means that you can talk to us. And how do you do that? Well, a number of ways. You can use the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter. You can use @FC on the YouTube chat. You can also head over to the WildEarth website, register, and then submit your questions under the live safari page. Kids, if you're watching, we really, really, really want to hear from you. Please send in your questions via email. And the email address is kidquestions@wildearth.tv. Okay, we have arrived. Will we see any spotty bodies? I am not sure. As many of you know, it's just times of change with the Dewdrop clan. The older cubs are much older now. They're roaming with moms and roaming around, and the younger cubs are, of course, in this den. We'll give you a brief view. It's not active, I'm afraid. How sad. Ah dear, they will be inside, but naturally it's winter. So not only have times changed in terms of the dynamics of the clan, but times have also changed in terms of season, which brings about changes in daylight, changes in temperature, changes in the food resources. It's winter now, it's cold, it's barren. Look at the environment. It's gone from a really, really lush green to quite a monotonous yellow, dead-looking colour, and that's because a lot of the vegetation has, of course, died. So times have changed, but I will keep checking as I always do when I'm out here, and hopefully we shall see some hyenas one day. But because it's colder, the adults will be hungrier, they've got babies to feed, and naturally they'll need to eat more to keep warm. They're mammals after all. Many of you are saying welcome back. Thank you, thank you. It is good to be back. I have taken off 2 layers, might I add. I thought it was going to be a lot colder than it actually was. And I am Scottish after all. I do like the brisk air hitting you in the face, and it keeps you nice and awake. Make sure you don't get sleepy. 2 coffees and cold air does the trick. So my plan for today is really just to bumble around. I'm going to sort of scratch around the south, Treehouse Dam, Twin Dams, possibly even Chitwa, and see what we can find going on down that way. Okay, I've already told you about the weather here being, well, quite pleasant really, but let's take a look at the weather across all our locations.
everybody, and welcome to And Beyond Ngala. It's a beautiful morning this morning, no clouds, or not many of them in fact. Good morning, I'm Daniel Fisher, and on camera this morning we've got him Paul. So a little bit cooler than it was yesterday. We're currently sitting right in the riverbed, just turned off listening to see what kind of is happening all around us. Probably going to go and head out and look for some lions. There was some interesting tracks yesterday. One of the Ross males was kind of crossing over, and then the Birmingham male was kind of crossing right towards them. I wonder if they didn't have a little interaction together. But yeah, so I'm just stopping and listening. Maybe they're kind of calling and interacting with one another, or trying to communicate. Maybe the Ross male's calling his brother. Maybe the Birmingham male's kind of running away as well. Haven't seen the sub-adult males for some time in the past couple of days, so they would be a nice one to kind of pop up. Even the cubs, haven't seen them in a while. So lions are on the call this morning, and really hoping we do manage to find them. For the next short while the sun's coming up, it's a really good time to just try and stay warm. Probably going to cut out of the river, kind of keep going west along the riverbed, see if we can't see any tracks going out there, and see what's happened last night. That new male as well, it actually, Nick and them said it wasn't. It's the one with the half ear, they call him Mandleva, I think. And he was moving into the central parts of the reserve, which is really good for us. During the daytime, he's not so relaxed, but in the evening, like we saw last night, he can be very relaxed. It'll be interesting to see if he pops up somewhere. But with this vacancy and this void of a leopard territory in this area, I'm sure he's going to be covering huge distances in the evenings. Unless he gets very lucky and manages to catch something, hopefully hoist it up in a tree. He is a big, strong male leopard, so he can do that quite easily. So yeah, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to pop out onto the other side of the riverbed here and just keep going west along the bank, seeing what else we can find. The sun has just risen as well. We're a little bit low to really see it, but the bush should really come alive. Lots of birds starting to call. These diurnal animals kind of waking up and starting to start their days, moving around. It's amazing how much cooler it is this morning than yesterday. I mean, yesterday, with that dense cloud cover, just kind of insulated all the heat. But with that, it took a long time to actually warm up, because the sun never kind of came through the clouds. So this morning with no clouds, yes, initially it's pretty cold, but it will warm up quite quickly. The sun's going to come down, and in the next hour or so, it's going to warm up significantly. Sorry, I just want to take this vehicle up on four-wheel drive. There we go. A real beautiful road here on the bank. Kind of just follows the Timbavati River going west. Beautiful trees. This is where that male lion came from yesterday. Sarah, nice to hear some cat action. I can't promise there being cat action, and if that Birmingham male can do anything about it, I'm sure he would have loved to avoid any kind of action. He's been quite good at it, though. He's been very good at avoiding action, although he does have that pretty permanent limp from some action that happened a few years ago. And that might encourage him to try and avoid any kind of interaction, but we don't know. We got a little puzzle to build this morning. A couple of puzzle pieces to put together and try and work out exactly what might have happened yesterday. And it might have been that they just walked straight past each other, that they interacted. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. It's always amazing to see these roads after the evening as well. I mean, the activity on them is amazing, from your hyenas to your birds, porcupines, honey badgers, elephants as well. The activity is unbelievable, and you'll see it's a great way to determine the freshness of tracks. So when you see kind of tracks crossing the road here, obviously on the sand, you can see the tracks, and animals also often use the roads as the path of least resistance to get from point A to point B. And it can be very tricky, and quite a skill, in fact, to determine the freshness of tracks, like to tell the difference between a track that's 1 hour old and maybe 20 minutes old. can be very difficult. So some of these nocturnal critters and even insects and things like that can be a really good clue as to determining the freshness of track. Oh, there was a slender mongoose. Don't know if you saw that on the camera. It disappeared. Super shy. It's just popped off, and I don't think we're going to get another look at it. I've actually been noticing an unbelievable amount of slender mongooses out, and dwarf mongooses, more than I think I've ever really taken notice of in the past few years. And I wonder why. My guess would be that the grass might be a little bit longer, maybe it's a little bit safer in the road, maybe there's a bit more food on the road. But it's been really interesting to see so many slender mongoose and dwarf mongoose. Even though I saw a banded mongoose, I think I've seen a slender mongoose on every single drive, which I don't think I've ever really done before, for like a week and a half, 2 weeks consecutively, which is quite interesting. So, I mean, we were talking about tracks and just these crested francolins in the road, that slender mongoose kind of running around. They will walk and run on top of the lion tracks, the leopard tracks that we might be following, and that'll give us a good clue as to how fresh they are. If they are leopard tracks without any of these crested francolins who spend a lot of time, particularly first thing in the morning on the road, then they'll be very fresh. Look at this one having a little dust bath. Clearing some of the sand, trying to get to some grass seeds. You'll often see them kind of bathing and covering their feathers in the dust, trying to get rid of pests and mites. And it's a good idea once again to just stop. I can hear, sounds like a bearded woodpecker kind of pecking at one of the trees up ahead. They're the only woodpecker that really peck against a tree as a form of communication. So that's how I know just from the pecking that it's a bearded woodpecker. I wonder if this guy's mates are going to get the confidence to come and join him. I mean, called a crested francolin. Look at its head. You can see that very prominent white eye stripe above the eye. Like quite indistinct coloured legs as well, like between the Natal spurfowl. People often get confused between this one and the Natal spurfowl. The legs of the Natal spurfowl are very orange and quite obviously red, whereas that one's quite dull and indistinct. Okay, he's popped off. Let's keep going, and I haven't heard anything, so let's keep going. Okay, so I want to keep going along the riverbed, kind of looking out for tracks, looking for any signs of lions or leopards from last night. And while I do that, I'm going to send you over to Jonty.
Good morning, everybody. We are at Buffelshoek Dam, just enjoying some of the morning sounds. We've got this beautiful pied kingfisher entertaining us this morning. Good morning, everybody. My name's John T. We've got Odie on the camera. Hello, Ricky, Amelia, Lambro. Love you lots. Thanks for joining us this morning, everybody. We are enjoying this magnificent sunrise and just taking in some of these morning sounds. And hopefully we're going to see if we can find some fresh sign of elephants this morning. Oh, there's a hornbill on the ground and some dung of the elephants we hopefully want to find a bit later. Picking up little bits and pieces off the ground there. my binoculars out and have a look. See what it is exactly he's trying to pick up off the road. Some very old elephant dung just in front of him. You'll often find them come and scratch through the dung. But I think this one's already been completely scratched through for little insects. There are a whole ton of insects that will be inside that dung. Small dung beetles, bigger dung beetles. Oh, the colour in its eye is amazing, eh? Yeah, look at the sun here. Can you see that? Good morning, Frankie. So, yeah, pied kingfishers we found all over South Africa and Southern Africa. I'll just check in my book how far north the range goes for them. Let's see what it says here. So, right up to the top of Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, so, sort of maybe right up to the southern tip of the Zambezi River, we should see pied kingfishers. That sunrise is so good. I'm just trying to remember from I did a trip to India, and they've got a huge range of kingfishers. I'm just trying to remember if there was a pied kingfisher in the Indian birds of the Indian subcontinent. Some turtle doves coming down to drink. But yeah, it really is great, especially now this time in the morning. The sun's coming up, there's a bit of cloud cover sort of breaking away. So this is a great time to just come and listen and see what the jungle folk are telling us. The reflection of the clouds is amazing, eh? What's that down there? Joy, thank you for that. I've never been to Hong Kong, but it would be quite a good reminder of home to come and visit you there and see a pied kingfisher. I hope you could see, Odie, come down just in that water channel where it comes into the dam. There's a duiker just coming down to drink. Just be very cautious around the water's edge here. It could become breakfast for one of the cats that live in this area. I don't know if you would have picked that up in the sound, but there's a hippo calling very far away. So we're just going to spend a few more minutes sitting here listening, and then we'll carry on and see if we can find any tracks of any elephants.
On board we have a very special guest joining our live safari today. We have Sue Fogel, who has bought a ticket to Dream.
It was an easy decision to purchase a ticket to Dream because I've been working with animals for my whole life, and I think what Wild Earth does here, bringing live safaris into your home, is just remarkable.
If you want to go on safari with a Wild Earth guide, whilst honing your bush knowledge and of course featuring in one of our shows, then head over to our website.
Well, since I've been watching for such a long time, I thought it would be a good idea for me to come here in person.
Sign up to be a Wild Earth explorer and you could be making your first ever on-screen appearance.
If you have a chance to do it, I highly recommend it. To feel the sun on your face and the wind in your hair, and to smell the smells and just kind of be in the animal's presence. It's undescribable. I highly recommend it.
Across southern and East Africa, the Endangered Wildlife Trust works tirelessly to save species, protect critical habitats, and benefit people. Join the EWT in returning wildlife to the wild. Go to ewt.org.za to find out more and follow our socials to see how you can get involved. Protecting forever, together.
My name is Ross and I'm a field guide at and beyond Pinder Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on Wild Earth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
Guys, just watch what's happening. See, watch the elephants, watch the lions. See, the first ones to run are the cubs. Can you see them? They are right here. I'm not sure how scared you were, but I was quite nervous. But absolutely incredible.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
Good morning and welcome to and beyond Pinder Private Game Reserve. We just admiring this beautiful view. Haven't had much of a sunrise because it's quite a cold and miserable morning here. My name is Pete Simmons, and behind the camera this morning we have Johan. And you might see a few specks on us at the moment. It's quite cold, and we're expecting a little bit of rain later on as the day goes on. But we've got such a beautiful view here looking towards the east. You can see those dark clouds coming, and when it's cold like this, a lot of the animals actually tend to hide inside the bush, so we haven't seen too much just yet. We've seen a few zebra, but yeah, we're hoping that one or two animals will be coming out as it warms up, hopefully, but if it doesn't, it might be quite interesting. Really interesting weather for this time of the year. We didn't expect so much rain, but these clouds are actually making for quite a beautiful scene here. If you look down in that direction, that's actually False Bay, and forms part of the Isimangaliso World Heritage Site. And that straps all the way around towards St. Lucia. So really beautiful to see that water. See, it's also even too cold this morning for the birds to be chirping. Usually at this time of the day we'd hear a few birds calling, a bit of a morning chorus going on, but not quite just yet. hope all of you in KwaZulu-Natal have got a nice warm cup of coffee. Johan and I definitely have one next to us at the moment. It seems like the whole of KwaZulu-Natal is a bit chilly this morning. No, Gavin, they don't. Not all animals grow an extra coat. We know that a few of animals, sometimes like jackal, will shed a bit of fur, but they do have other ways of keeping themselves warm during the winter. Often they'll huddle up a little bit. We know impala like to puff up their coat a little bit, so on cold mornings they puff up their fur and create a little bit of extra space on their coat, and it's almost like us getting goosebumps. It's the same kind of idea where they create a larger surface area and be able to keep a bit warmer. Awesome, we're going to carry on and go and see what we can find and hopefully stay away from the rain, and we're going to send you off to JP at Pridelands.
Good morning and welcome to Wild Earth. We are live at Eco Training Pridelands and we are about to start our walk at Ndlovu Dam. Our plan for this morning is to start from the dam, continue on a circular route and head towards the area which is known as Zebra Plains, and from there making our way back. At the moment we're just enjoying a little bit of early morning birding. We had a few Egyptian geese that came in, some doves that came in for a drink, and hopefully will be something that comes in soon that might be of interest. So as the morning is progressively getting warmer, we hope to find some more activity at some of the water holes. And then meanwhile, the temperature over here is really nice today compared to yesterday, which was quite chilly. And the cloud cover that we had kept all the warmth and heat in, creating a little bit of a duvet. A very pleasant 18 degrees Celsius for this morning already. We also have a sun peeking out after that we didn't have much sun from yesterday. Hopefully as things become a little bit warmer again today, animals will start developing a thirst and start moving to the dam. We're going to allow you just to enjoy that sunrise for a little bit, and then we are about to move on to start our walk. Let's go and have a look at what Lauren is up to in Djuma and see what she has on offer.
I lied earlier. I'm terribly sorry. It is cold. It's really chilly. I put my jacket on, at least one of them. I'm going to be brave enough not to put the other one on. Now, apparently lions have crossed into Djuma. We've done a little bit of a loop. I don't know which lions, I don't know which prides, but we're going to continue looping around and see if we can pick up their tracks. Everybody's checked the boundary and it doesn't appear that they've crossed back out again, which can only mean one thing, that they're here somewhere. So that's what mission I'm on to now, but we just thought we'd stop and say good morning to these boys. You're all friends again, that's so wonderful. Yes, remember when you were not friends? Aha. But now we have bachelor herds again. The rutting season is over. The boys no longer have a point to prove. Their necks will get smaller again, the testosterone levels will drop, and they'll all go back to being friends. But if you remember just a month ago, they were fighting. Horn clashes, swollen necks, competing for the females. It's all very temporary in impalas. And the territories that they do set up are also temporary. They dissolve. So impalas can be territorial, but it's very much a temporary thing. Although these two boys, are you being friendly or what? I think they're friends. And it's not sustainable for them to behave the way that they do during rutting season all year round. A lot of them lose condition, they get smaller, they don't groom as much. They completely forget about grooming, and they also don't let others groom them because they're being the territorial male, and therefore the tick load gets very, very high. So you can normally tell a male impala that's completely lost condition, he's completely forgot about himself because he's driven by hormones, and he's driven by the desire to get as many females as possible. I feel like they might be having a mini standoff here. Yeah, I think there might be a standoff, but it's very gentle. It's not aggressive here. If it was aggressive, then of course you'll start to see them fighting, which they won't. Johanna, you're asking about the lambs. Oh, so very exciting. Yes, it's the breeding event that happens here, and they all drop the lambs at once, and that's what's so incredible. Each ewe will have one lamb, and the gestation period is 6.5 months. So therefore, that should sort of tell you 6.5 months from now, we shall, or maybe 6 months from now, we shall start to see all the little impalas being born, and it's quite the feast, it's quite the buffet for the predators. It's really an enjoyable time when you start to see the little lambs, and that's why impalas are so successful, because they do flood the market. That's what we call it. And it means because all the impala lambs are born within a certain time frame, give or take, the predators can't possibly put a large dent in that population. They do take lambs, they do eat the lambs, but there's enough of them to allow that small little population to survive and thrive. Whereas if it wasn't synchronous and the breeding event didn't happen at the same time for all the ewes, they would just be dropping lambs all throughout the year, and the predators would probably pluck them off one by one, and it would not result in success for the impalas. It's a really, really successful breeding technique. Okay, impalas. We gotta look for some lions. They've come from the south, so I don't know if it is the Nkuhumas or the Talamatis. I really, really don't know, but they came from the south into the north. So it really could be either. Have you seen some lions, boys? Oh, no, you don't like that word. Toot toot. Amy? Probably yes. I always try to stay extremely calm. You are in the vehicle at the end of the day, and that is your sort of protection. Staying calm is one of the things that you're taught here. If you do enter or get into a little bit of a hairy situation, staying calm is very important. But I did have one drive with Darkmane the Avoca, and his lady friend, who were romancing one another as a honeymoon couple at the time. And when lions mate, they're very exhausted. They're almost sort of delirious because they don't eat. It's very fast and furious affair. It's very frantic. So they're exhausted. And the couple got up to mate, and they ended up moving, and they positioned themselves really, really close to the car. So I decided, I'm not going to turn on the engine and move. We're just all going to stay calm here. They're very focused on their mating. I'm sure some of you can remember this sighting. And Darkmane stood up to move, but he ended up moving right to the car. And I could have probably put my hand out and ruffled his mane. That's how close he was. So I had a moment there where I gulped very loudly, but he was not paying any attention to me. They were very much involved in the meeting, but I think that's one sighting that really sticks out where I did get nervous for a moment. He was very, very close. And lions are huge. I mean, we're so used to seeing leopards, and leopards are big, but then when you see a lion, they're so much bigger. That skull is about 3 or 4 times the size of my skull. And it really is quite phenomenal when you see them that close. So yes, I have had some moments where you do get a little bit nervous. Now I'm not seeing any lion tracks, so they definitely haven't came this way. We're going to keep bumbling around and hopefully for now, so bumbling.
Welcome back, everybody. So, kind of still on the search for any signs of lions, and we've just come across some tracks. I'm just trying to determine how fresh they are. And they look like they're pretty fresh. They are on top of all sorts of nocturnal animals, some birds, and they're going in the opposite direction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn around here, and that's kind of like a good little clue as to where they might be going. A little U-turn here, and head the other way, at least for the next short little while. Try and see if they don't join up with any of the other ones. The male lions weren't terribly far away from here last night, but it's just tracks of one female, one lioness, and they continue back down this road. I just want to make sure that she cut here. Okay, oh, there she goes. Michael, when do I think the Birmingham male will leave for good? To be honest, I think it might be shortly. The amount of pressure that the females got tracks kind of cut up towards there. So I'm going to go to the next road and then go up there. So I think he's going to leave shortly. Although we've been saying that for years, I think now is a really good time. Simply because it seems like there's lots of pressure on the new sub-adult males to be leaving, and so when I think he's kind of been waiting for the right time to leave, and the right time might be with these new sub-adult males. The three sub-adults have been spending lots of time together, and they're being chased by the Ross males. The Ross males are being super aggressive with how they chase them as well. So it's kind of like their time with the Pride is coming to an end, and I'm sure if the Birmingham male is clever about it, he will leave with them. It'll give him a really good chance at survival. It'll also give the subadults a really good chance, or a real good chance at survival. He's also much bigger and much stronger and much older than they are. So he's going to get to his prime relatively soon, which will allow them that extra strength to kind of compete for a new pride earlier than what they would have previously liked. So that's a serious advantage to all of the lions. So it would make sense for them to kind of join up and leave shortly. That being said, we never know. Until it happens, we will never know. That Birmingham male's been spending quite a bit of time in the riverbed with that old lioness from the Birmingham Pride, who just never seems to give up. She will look like she's basically dead for a few days and then have a decent meal and kick back into life. She's just never giving up. See, the Rocky. But yeah, it's just interesting, the females with the new cubs, or relatively new cubs, the ones that are about probably 3 months old and maybe 5 or 6 months old now, they are spending a little bit of time further north in the property. I wonder what the reason for that is. They've kind of ventured quite far away from the riverbed, which is generally their safe zone. I just want to make sure that these tracks don't carry on this road. They did cut off to our right, which makes me want to check this road. I just want to double check that they haven't come back here. Nope, no tracks there. Let's check this road here. And it seems like this lioness is heading towards where that lioness, or those two lionesses and their cubs have been for the past few weeks. Hopefully that'll coax them out of where they've been. They've been in a super tricky area, huge block. I mean, they won't even have to leave that block if they're hunting successfully in there for weeks at a time. There's water. You know, there's some leopard tracks from last night as well in the road going the opposite direction, but I'm going to try and stick with these lion tracks for now. Keep a good lookout. We did mention how tricky it can be. We're quite fortunate that the height of the grass has kind of died down in the past few weeks, making it a bit easier to see. But now that it's getting a bit drier, the color has changed significantly. Changed to suit that of a lion's coat perfectly. I guess that's one of the advantages that we have of having white lions. They're quite a lot easier to spot them if they are around. Although, in theory, that seems simple, but it's certainly not. Bonnie, what happens to a lion when it dies in a pride? Lions can die from all sorts of things, from diseases, from battles, from injuries, from trying to take down animals, and you'll see from hyenas maybe, if they die, lions will very rarely eat other lions. It's not unheard of, but they'll often just kind of be in the bush left for hyenas and vultures and things to pick up and feed up on the scraps, and then just wither away, you know. It's not... And then their place in the hierarchy of the pride will kind of be taken over by someone. If it's one of the older lionesses, the next older lioness will kind of just move into that place. There's not like a big ceremony about the kind of jostling for positions in terms of the hierarchy at all. It's just something that happens. And you'll see lions sometimes die, or sometimes they just leave and never come back to their pride. In which case, the other pride members will just assume that they are dead or just move on with life as normal. It's a tough world out here. There's not too much sentiment behind it. And they will carry on with exactly what they were doing before in a very similar fashion. This female leopards walked quite far on this road last night. Good to see. I wonder which female it'll be. There's the Tswalu female, which nobody has seen. We were even discussing her last night. No one has seen her for months and months and months. We were discussing maybe she's been killed as well, and it's just something that we're never really going to know. I don't think she would have moved territories. We thought initially that maybe she's gone and denned somewhere and had another litter of cubs without us knowing, which is highly possible, particularly in this property where the blocks are so big. A leopard could go into blocks and not come out of a block for months and months, in which case we're never going to find her, because we use tracks to find these animals. They go into a direction, they spend a lot of time on foot tracking animals and into these big blocks. And you'll see, I don't know if you've noticed as well, but when we do off-road, we have these huge off-roading tracks to get into sightings just because of the size of the blocks. So it'll be interesting to see what female leopard tracks these are. But I'm still going to be following the lines. I will let other guys know, and maybe they'll be interested in coming and following up here. Just so interesting to see the Birmingham Pride, or what I can just assume to be the Birmingham Pride. I can't tell exactly from the tracks which lion is which lion, but just judging by the area and their movements over the past few years, in fact, I could just assume that these lions that we've got tracks of this morning are part of the Birmingham Pride. They're heading west for now into more of the Birmingham Breakaways territory, and the Breakaways and the Birminghams, it'll be very interesting to see if they kind of join up. I don't think it'll be very, very civil. I'm sure there'll be quite a lot of competition, just because there is competition for space and territory. James Richard, any signs of wild dogs denning on Ngala this season? The answer is simply no for now, and it's the first time in 4 years that they haven't denned on our property. It's amazing. For the past 4 years, you could almost pinpoint the exact date of when those puppies would be born. So 16, 17, 18th of May to the day. For the past 4 years, the wild dogs have given birth on the property, and it has a lot to do with the rutting season of the impalas. The end of the rutting season, there's excess food for them and easier hunting. I think particularly for this year, there's a chance that the wild dogs will be denning out in the western part of the property, where during COVID we've had very few vehicles. I mean, this morning there's 2 of us out for 15,000 hectares. So for us to cover even just a small part of this property in 3 hours, 3.5 hours is almost impossible, particularly to get out to the west. I am slowly heading out into the west, but the west is massive. So there's a chance of them being out there, but for now, no. That's not to say that they won't come in. Just because wild dog dens can change from time to time, particularly if there are lots of puppies and lots of wild dogs, they can get infested with parasites and they can really start to smell quite nasty, actually. So there's a chance of them moving into Ngala. One of my suspicions as to why they haven't come anywhere near this place in the past few months is, if you think about our lion viewing, particularly over the past few months, there's that new Mayan Pride that's coming in the east, the Mbiris occasionally in the south that are pushing through, the Birmingham Pride getting to 23 members and spreading out all over the property, and the Breakaways in the west. This is not a place for wild dogs to be denning at the moment. Lions are a huge culprit as to the lack of success of wild dogs, and if they come into contact with wild dogs, they will kill them. So it's for those reasons that I think wild dogs have actually been quite smart. As unpleasant as it is, or for us not to have the wild dogs standing on the property, because yes, that makes game viewing a treat. You know, for a short period in their lives, it's only for a couple of months that they den, but their movements are somewhat predictable. You know that they're going to be going back towards the den in the morning after a hunt, regurgitating, feeding the puppies, and they'll be doing that. They'll be needing to go out every day, twice a day, every day, hunting, being incredibly good hunters, taking food down, allowing the alpha female, who's the only one that gives birth to puppies, to be able to produce milk, to feed the puppies. And the puppies start eating meat incredibly early. I think it was, 2 years ago, we put up a camera trap at one of the dens to try and see how long the puppies took before they started eating meat. And that will allow us then, the the go-ahead to start actually going into the den. The puppies are no longer, they're actually starting to come out of the den and starting to be like introduced to the rest of the pack and start moving around. And from 2 weeks old, they started to eat meat. The parents would come back and after a successful hunt regurgitate all this food for them, and at 2 weeks these little tiny puppies, their eyes are barely open, are busy eating meat. It's quite unbelievable. I don't know any other animal that starts to eat solids at such an early age, and in books it doesn't say so early, but that camera track was 2 weeks before those puppies started eating meat. It was quite crazy. A little bit sad, first time in 4 years that the dogs haven't denned here, but it is what it is. See? And I think it has a lot to do with the lion dynamics that has been happening on this property in the past 6 months. Just trying to work out some tracks here. Looks like there are a few hyena tracks here. I'm going to keep going, seeing if those tracks that I saw earlier don't come out onto the road here, and see where they take us.
Our bodies are made up of about 60% water, which means that in a very short space of time, you can dehydrate completely. A relatively efficient way of collecting water early in the morning is to take an absorbent material like a sock and to walk through the grass, absorbing the condensed dewdrops on the grass. Once the material is saturated, you can then squeeze it out into a container, or you can suck it out directly into your mouth.
I love being a cam up for Wild Earth. The animals coming right up close to you, especially like lions. Sometimes you get nervous, but you have to go with the flow. My favorite animal to film is the elephant because of how big it is. But when it's really up close to you, it's one animal that you would say, I really respect you.
Baby pangolin. This is off the charts. This animal is about from your fingertips to your elbow. That's the total length of this animal. This is unreal. This is unreal. This is unreal. This is like now my 4th Christmas in a week. We should do this more often.
Tune into Wild Earth every single day. It's in your nature.
What fascinates me most about the animal circle of life is the intricacies between the large and the very, very small. I mean, it's very easy to go out there and find the large. Once you found the large, the cascading effect down to the small absolutely fascinates me. Alertness and situation awareness is by far the #1 aspect for protecting ourselves out on safari.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth.
And look who we have here. Lions. Panthera leo. And I believe it's the Nkuhumas. Not all of them. We have 5 tawny bodies so far that I can see. So much easier to find animals in winter. It's definitely colder. My hands are now frozen in the shape of a steering wheel, but that's okay. Because what a warm welcome back by the Nkuhumas. I know many of you like to know the location, so we're just on Mendoza Road. Still very close to Gowrie, Maine. So they're in the very southern west corner of the reserve. But really, the Nkuhumas don't spend as much time on Djuma as they used to. They've definitely shifted, which is normal over time. time is not linear really, and there will always be shifts in patterns of all organisms, from your mosquitoes to your frogs to your leopards to your lions. There will always be changes. They may be very subtle, or they may be large changes, but the shift in territories is entirely normal. I would say my first year and a half here was only ever the Inkahumas that we saw, and they spent a lot of time on Juma. But now we definitely spend a lot more time with the Talamatis. So it's very, very nice to see them. I can only imagine being a mammal getting through the night here. It's cold at night time, which of course will affect their daily activity, their daily patterns. So I'm very surprised to say that they are sleeping. But we're going to stay here and spend as much time with the Inkahumas as we can. And for now, we're going to send you guys over to Jonty.
Guys, welcome back. We've just come around the corner and been treated to this leopard. I'm not sure who on earth it is, but it is the Prince of Cats. We're going to try and stay with it so that I can hopefully get an ID, but how flippin' awesome. We literally just came around the corner. I said to Odie it would be nice if we found some sort of life form on the road that we're on, and we saw some in Yala, and then now this leopard, but we're going to have to concentrate to try to stay with it. This could be tricky. So it went through here. Hey. I'm actually just going to reverse back a bit and come around here. She went through there. It's amazing. We were just talking about how long or how thick this grass still is, and this brown color will help this leopard just evaporate. Oh, there it is there. Can you see through there, Odie? Yeah, that's cool. Wow. That is very, very awesome. Looks like a youngish leopard. I'm not sure who. It's a young male. I can hear another vehicle coming. You might just hear me talking on the radio. We're stationed located a young male leopard off of Central Road, south of the road, about midway along between Inyala Road South and Drakensberg Road. I'm going to try to stay with it in the block. Yeah, this is so epic.
Sorry, last station.
Mirips. Wow, this is a new leopard for me. Looks like he's just sort of exploring around here. Marivane. Is that what he said? Sorry, that was a bit of a jerk there, Odie.
I'm just not sure of the location yet. I'll find out and let you know.
Oh, I could be, yeah, I think it could be that. So my central,
Which is the vehicle driving on Central?
That's pretty here.
Morning, Freddy. It's John. I don't know if you just got my visual. I'm just south of you. He's just following him. He's going up onto Termite Mound.
Okay, we'll be trekking in from Portugal. Thank you very much. Can I join you then?
Yes, please. Make your way. Check him up there, Odie. So this is the son of Tundi. Is that right? That is amazing. So there's a leopard shoulder blade. He's sniffing around there. I'm just going to wait a bit and see if he does settle down on this termite mound. And then I'll try reposition, but I think he's going to keep moving. It's amazing. So I don't know exactly how old he is, but he certainly looks like he's at that age where he might be off looking to definitely try catch his own prey at this stage. He'll definitely be stealing it away from his mom. We're going to try stay with this leopard. I think you're going to head over to Dan at Ngala and look at some elephants. Okay, he's just moved off of that termite mound. We're going to try and maintain visual, see if we can see him. It's always great when they're on the move like this, because you never know what's possible. I'm sure there's going to be a log in here. I'm going to just go through. Odie, be careful, this no thorns on the guarri for you. So there's another vehicle that's joined us now. We're trying to stick with this little character. Last I saw him was go. I think you're going to go join Lauren. We're going to see if we can relocate this leopard.
Marib's on Juma. My goodness, I feel like everybody's on Juma today. It's the place to be. How exciting though. There's obviously a young male leopard, and what I've noticed is they tend to be very predictable in their little habits. They've got a very routine route, and it's very nice to hear him crossing back into Juma. Just like you guys, sleepies. Now, apparently they had a kill, and if they have came from the south, I think they came from Little Gowrie side, so they must have a kill on Little Gowrie, and it's obviously finished. So the Pride have separated, but you never know, we may see a few more members arrive. Oh, they just look gold. I guess that's the one good thing about having Pride members. You can cuddle up, body heat. It's just so lovely to see the aromas. And it doesn't mean they've abandoned Juma, not at all. It just means they've shifted. Seasonal fluctuations will always affect territories, even with leopards. And lions definitely blend in a lot more in winter. If you look at their tawny bodies to that monotonous landscape that I was sort of describing earlier, there's still a fair bit of greenery, but the grass itself, they blend in really well. Look at that. Dina, I wish I could answer that question. I have no idea. I have really no idea where the Talamatis are. I obviously haven't been around for 2 weeks, and I don't think they've been found this morning. So unfortunately, I cannot answer that question. They could be. We're at the very, very sort of southwest of Djuma. Talamatis could easily be in the northern sector, but I'm not sure, I'm afraid. And let's just use Central Road as an example. It's a nice and easy one to remember. If the Talamatis were using Central as their sort of boundary line at the very, very edge or the perimeter of their territory, it's just an odor fence that's completely penetrable. It's just a warning. It's not, you can't come in. It's just as a warning. If you do come in, we are here. So if they don't mark that territory line for quite a while, the Inca Humas could easily push up and make Central their boundary line. It's a very ebb and flow process, that territory. But it seems like our lions are not going anywhere. But John C. has managed to get more visuals of my leaves.
So welcome back. We managed to get a bit of help from the other vehicle. This Marips has just laid down in this long grass. Luckily, we could just see the tops of his ears there, giving him away. The other vehicle said they had been tracking 2 leopards. So I'm presuming it was him and his mom heading this direction. So it's quite possible she's around here as well. And in the brief time that we did see him, he was saying his stomach, he doesn't look incredibly full, but it looks like there could be something in his stomach. So we're definitely going to stick with him because there's a very high likelihood that there might be some sort of meat in the area. And I'd love to see him if he did join up with his mom, because like I said, for me, this is the first time to see this leopard. He is very, very beautiful. Yeah, he is. I'm hoping he lifts his head up so we can see him some more. But you can see when Odie zooms out a little bit like that, how well camouflaged. If he doesn't move, you cannot see that. Yeah, the Prince of Cats. So good. You can see those white tips on the back of his ears. Oh, Fiona, these cats, they see, because of the structure of their eye for being sort of much better at seeing at night, they see more in a black and whitish than colour. So their eyesight during the day is very, very good, but they do come into their own at night, and that sacrifices not being able to see colour. I was just saying, when we were looking, you see the white at the back of his ears. And when he was walking through the grass, the camouflage of his coat was so good, all that we could see was the white tip of his tail and those white ears. And that's what as when he was much younger, that's what he would follow, and his mom, he would follow that tip of her tail, especially through grass like this. Oh, but it is amazing. We were so lucky to just catch him crossing the road. Literally in front of us. We just came over the ridge and he was there standing on the road, because if he was here like this now, there's no way that we would have seen him. And we're only about 50 meters from the road. But wow, we're lucky. We're going to stay here and see what happens, see if he goes to sleep or if he's going to get up and carry on moving. But we're going to head over to JP at Pridelands.
Good morning and welcome back on Bushwalk. We just walked up to this beautiful little flaky fawn acacia and discovered the webs of a tropical tent spider. It's quite a unique structure, and unlike most spider webs, this is actually a horizontal web and not a vertically placed web. And it looks like the egg sacs that we have here in the center. They normally leave 2 or 3 of these behind. And quite often what we do find is that the females will die shortly after that these egg sacs have been produced. Now, the spiders that we do find on the web is actually another species, and they're known as Dewdrop Spiders. And you'll notice that they got these beautiful shiny abdomens that looks like drop, especially now that we're getting a little bit of sunlight coming out. It's actually showing up very nicely. So these guys, they have got absolutely nothing to do with the making of a web, and the only reason why they're here is to come and look for food remains that might have been left here by the tropical tent spider. So we refer to them as kleptoparasites, somebody that steals somebody else's food, basically, and uses them. We also find these spiders quite often in the webs of both the golden orb and garden orb web spiders, where we'll scavenge. So they're also so small that the larger spiders can't do anything to them, and they can freely move around and get away from the larger spider without being harmed by the spider. There's a number of different spiders. Quite often when we talk about spiders, it normally lets most people's hair raise. But we don't really have to be concerned about the spiders in South Africa. There's only 5 species, which is really of medical importance. The rest all have venom, except one group, but has very beings. In general, we find that venom is used to subdue the prey, as well as to assist with the digestion of the food, as it starts breaking down the cells within the prey item and make it to then basically feed on it. One of the things that I also find quite fascinating about spiders is that the male spider has got a very unique pedipalp, which is a foot-like structure that they use to put the sperm inside the female's reproductive opening. And that pedipalp will only fit into that a reproductive opening of that specific species of spider, preventing interbreeding between different species from taking place. Well, we also find in some species, once the pedipalp has been placed inside the epigyne or the reproductive opening, it will break off. We're going to move on and let's go and see what we can find.
Helping kids to fall in love with nature is critical. Our future depends on it. Wild Earth has had the opportunity to take many children from all over the world on safari, some from right here on our doorstep.
Welcome to those of you watching from Hananani Primary School, just outside Dixie Village.
They love like learning about nature because now we're having like a crisis of like rhino poaching. We all need each other, so it is very, very important for the kids to learn about animals, on how to save them or even to protect them.
My favorite animal is an elephant because they are very cute, although they're eating the trees or the plants, but they are still very cute to me.
The way they explained the animals, asking questions, and we saw our names on the screen, it was so exciting.
Take 27. I'm Carol from Chicago, USA. This is me 5 years ago. No music, no editing, real time. I was hooked. Thank you so much for that, Wild Earth.
I had lost my job, and I also lost one of my pets. So Wild Earth has seen me through very hard times, and I just want to thank all of you for being there for me when I needed you most.
We love you. We start and end our day with you, teaching our grandkids all about nature through you, your wonderful educational safaris.
We really do appreciate being on safari with you, especially when it's cold and wintry in Canada.
And considering we've been in lockdown for 18 months here in Saudi and I've not been able to fly back to South Africa, I want to thank you for bringing your safari back into my life every single day and night. I love it, love it, love it.
My name is Lauren and I'm currently working in Djuma Private Game Reserve here in South Africa. I love answering your questions during the live safaris. It's my favorite part. It feels like you're on the vehicle with me and I'm able to teach you exactly what you want to know. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, you must go to the live safari page and ask your question below the live feed. Everyone is very sleepy this morning, including myself. But of course they are nocturnal. And if they have been feeding, eating, I heard there was a bamba on Little Gary, which means they have a kill. I don't quite know what it was, but it's obviously time to rest. Now they don't look starving, but they also don't look really that full. Lions are just like leopards in that they'll gorge themselves. Their stomach can stretch substantially. Anywhere between 20 to 25% of their own body weight, that stomach can stretch. Feels a bit like me at Christmas time. But it's because they do lead the life of feast or famine. Any organism out here, from your insects to your reptiles to your mammals to your birds, they don't know when their next meal is coming, really. They can't just go to the grocery store or order a takeout. It's survival. And that's why when they do get a meal, they will really gorge themselves, fill those tummies, and then of course once the tummies are quite literally a bit too full, they can't really do much. And that's when they rest and digest. And it's not quite as strong as hyenas, but lions have incredibly strong stomach acid, which means it's very, very low on that pH scale, and it's hydrochloric acid, so it literally just blasts away any nasty pathogens or bacteria that comes in while they're eating. Sorry. Again, dry radio. And that's how they can survive. Their stomach acid is a lot stronger than ours. It's still acidic, ours, as in humans, and it's still the same acid. It's still hydrochloric acid, but it's not as strong. It's not as acidic as it is with your predators out here. And that's because they have to deal with eating a lot more nasty things than we do. It'd be so nice if we can see everybody. I heard there's a male still on the kill, so I imagine that will be one of the Avokas. Either Blondie or Mohawk, very original names. Because Darkmane naturally spends most of his time with the Talamatis. But that still means that Darkmane is very, very much part of the coalition that resides over the Nkuhumas. He's just not as mobile due to that injury. So he just spends all his time with one pride. Easier life. I guess just over time you recognize the lions and just individual recognition, I guess, is how you know. The Talamati pride are different in their dynamics, and some of the individuals will have really unique features that you can just pick out. They also do move in slightly different areas, although as I mentioned earlier, their movements and their territories are constantly shifting. But you just tend to recognize after a while which pride you are looking at. I find lions tricky in comparison to leopards and hyenas. Some people find lions extremely easy to identify. But if you were to actually look at both prides together, which is obviously not going to happen, they do look different, believe it or not. But we do have the knowledge that the Nkuhumas crossed north from the south, so we knew we were eventually looking for the Nkuhumas. It really helps when you've got those features. I'm sure some of you will remember Kinky Tail from the Sausage Tree Pride. Yeah, she was incredible. Or Amber Eyes, or Purple Eye, or Blue Eye. It makes it a lot easier when you see those individuals with the unique features, or they're missing the tuft on their tail. It's not easy for us, even though we are highly visual beings. It's difficult. The famous question. How many hours do lions sleep? Did you get that name, Dobby?
Gizmo.
Gizmo. I'm not a lion, but I think it's a lot. They say that they sleep sort of up to 20 hours a day out of the 24-hour window, but I personally have not observed that in my career. They are just nocturnal. And therefore their sort of habits, or daily habits, are the complete opposite of ours. We are generally, unless we're working night shift, diurnal. They're the opposite, maybe. So they've probably been awake since last night, as soon as that sun started to set, calling, scent marking, hunting, interacting, grooming, playing, and that's all energetically costly. Imagine if we spent the whole day singing and dancing and playing, and then hunting our own food. Of course, as soon as that sun starts to come up again, it's time to rest. But because it's winter, we do tend to see a lot more predator movement during the day. They will be a lot more mobile during the day, and that is because we have shifted in season. It's amazing, when you're in summer, you forget the harshness of winter. It's so hot, we're complaining about the heat, there's insects everywhere, it's so thick and lush and green water, you forget. And then you come into winter and you think, oh, this is what winter feels like again. And you almost forget that buzz of summer. It's amazing. But yes, lions do sleep a lot. But of course it does depend on their activities, really. Especially once they're extremely full. They will sleep a lot. Darkmane is the king of sleeping. Okay, we're going to stay here with our Inkahumas, hoping for some movement, but we're going to send you guys back across to Jonty and Madeebs.
Lauren, I hope you do get lucky there. We have been fortunate enough to see the leopard move its ear. He seems very, very comfortable where he is in this nice long grass. It'll be nice and warm for him in the grass. But like I was saying, if he has fed recently, then he's happy now. He's got no need to be moving around. It's quite an exciting time for leopards when they, like I say, I don't know exactly how old he is. Maybe around a year or somewhere there, what it looks like. But it's an exciting time for him. He'll start, I suppose, spreading his wings a bit and moving around a bit more and more when they're very young. You know, when his mom would leave them in the den and she would go off hunting, the cubs don't move far at all. But at this age, he'll be exploring, practicing hunting. You know, you often find them at this age stalking monitor lizards and franklins. Once at Ngala, many years ago, I saw a young male leopard jumping on the back of buffalo. It was almost like he was just playing a game. Running up and just absolutely freaking out the buffalo, and then he would hop off and go climb up a tree. It was ridiculous. There we go. I just got told he's about 15 months old. So that's that exact age where he is going to be exploring a lot more, like I say, practicing hunting, stalking things, honing those skills. Be interesting to see where he's going to go, where he's going to end up. When I was here last week, it was great to see the Tavangumi male, who I saw as a cub at Singita. So you wonder, is Mareep's going to head up or head south and be seen in a few years' time down in Singita or some of those southern properties? While we've been sitting here, still every now and again hear something moving in the bushes. I haven't seen it yet. I heard some oxpeckers fly off now. Typically you won't find oxpeckers on elephants. So maybe it's another large animal crashing through the bushes. It's interesting that question does come up. Some books, it depends where you read it, but some books say that they do tend to get a bit lighter with age. But in what I've seen, where I've worked around in the Sabi Sands, is that I haven't seen a change in the colour of the actual coat, the back of the coat, but where you will see around the muzzle, the ears, I don't know, that seems to get worn. I don't know if it changes colour so much, but it definitely gets a bit faded around the muzzle. But in terms of the back of the coat, that definitely stays the same beautiful golden colour that we can see through the grass. I don't know if you heard that one vehicle was just leaving now. That always bodes well. And this is a patience game. I think we will win this game of patience. We're going to sit here and hopefully something's going to develop. That's amazing. We've just seen like this sort of, I don't know if you heard it in the background, but the vehicle that left was a normal old Land Cruiser, and the one that arrived was electric. Very cool to not have the sound of the engine rumbling through. The future of safari. Still can't believe how they vanish in the grass. There's a lot of stories of guys who've been tracking and walking, especially in grass like this. You see out of the corner of your eye, you see a leopard lying, within a couple meters of you. It's a bit of panic at the disco when that sort of stuff happens. Alison, I think it does help for them. We were actually just talking about it now, Odie and I. It's not so cold this morning, but it certainly will be warmer for them when they lie up in that grass like that. It creates a bit of a pocket of air around them. So I think he's very, very happy in that grass. Oh, look at that, a big yawn. Sometimes a yawn could preempt a movement. Like I say, we've been hearing those branches breaking a little bit further south from where he is. At his age, he might be very curious and go look. That's what I'm hoping is going to happen. Veronica, that's a fantastic point. It is interesting when you watch them. We were actually having this discussion the other day about lions, if they know where they can get their best camouflage. And I was saying in terms of behavior, lions just sort of carry on, and if they're in a well-concealed spot, that's great. And if they're not, then they'll get spotted by whatever they're stalking. But I don't know, leopards seem to know exactly what to walk into that's going to make them get camouflaged. It's interesting, their coat, those rosetted spots, it breaks up their outline. So even in summer when the grass is green, or if they're in enough thick grass like this, I think you could hide anything in this grass at the moment, but in dappled light, in that sort of, when there's broken light coming through branches and trees, that's really where leopard's camouflage is really good. And he'll also be able to feel, if he goes stalk into this grass, he'll be able to feel that there's grass sort of all over him and that he's completely covered. And I don't know if you saw a few moments ago when he yawned, but those massive long whiskers that he has, they could walk through very, very thick bush, and just those whiskers are like feelers for them, letting them know what they can, or where they can walk through. So they're well aware of if they're in a thick spot or a more open sort of hiding spot. For him here, he's just chosen this spot to lie down. He's not actually trying to hide from us. If he was trying to hide, I don't think we would really see him at all. I might reposition and see if we can see his face from the front. I think you're going to head over to JP at Pridelands.
Good morning and welcome back to Pridelands. We're absolutely fascinated to find insects at this time of the year, as most of our insects have died off due to the cold temperatures. We're just located on this little interesting caterpillar. One of the things that you will notice is that he's got a large amount of spines, and those, if it does get in contact with the skin, can create irritation and sometimes even severe allergic reactions. It's amazing how many of the different species of caterpillars have evolved a number of strategies to protect themselves. One of the most interesting for me is actually that of the African monarch butterfly, where they will absorb certain cardiotoxins from plants that they feed on, and they will then carry this toxin over into adulthood. Another strategy that I find quite interesting to protect yourself as a caterpillar belongs to that of a butterfly that's known as a citrus swallowtail. And there the caterpillar actually resembles the black and white coloration of a bird dropping. And which bird would like to eat bird droppings? None of them. So therefore, they are often overseen as a dropping and not eaten by accident by birds. We also find that the majority of insects that have a large amount of toxins generally have a number of different color patterns, such as combinations of orange, whites, reds, and blacks, or yellows, and these are generally considered to be what we refer to as aposematic colors, which will warn the predator that it shouldn't be eating these. We also find that there's a number of other species of insects as well as butterflies that have adapted by actually mimicking the same color patterns as many of the toxic butterflies or insects, and therefore they're also left alone. Some of the insects that we do find in this area that can have quite a serious effect on humans are those processionary caterpillars. Good morning, Heather, and welcome to the show. They're either going to turn into a butterfly or a moth. So interesting, in African culture, we don't actually differentiate between butterflies and moths. They all call the same words. The only difference for us between a moth and a butterfly would be that they're generally day active and generally night active. We also see that the antenna structures of butterflies as well as moths differ, by one having a clubbed antenna and the other having feather-like antennas to the tip. We also find that generally moths are more dull-coloured compared to butterflies being more brightly coloured. There is also a number of moth species which has also incredibly beautiful colours, like the maidens, which has iridescent blues, reds, and a number of other colour patterns that they display. So a caterpillar like this, being hairy, most animals won't eat him, as we have already mentioned, with the exception of bird species such as the cuckoos. But all our cuckoos have now left. They either migrate back into Central Africa or they migrate back into Europe. And these guys often will provide caterpillars as little gifts to the female cuckoo. We're going to move on. Let's go and see what we can go and find. I think the others have discovered a few surprises for you, and let's see what they have on offer.
Good morning and welcome back, everybody. So I've just kind of stopped at this road here. There's tracks of a pride that are moving around. I'm going to try and see if I can find some that are a little bit easier for you. It looks like there are a couple of young males that are here just from the size of the tracks. I wonder if the camera's going to be able to pick up on some of them. So they've just walked a nice sandy road up here. Looks like very early this morning. These are definitely some of the freshest tracks that we've had so far. They kind of get to the junction here and they turn right. Wonder if we can get, here's some really clear and obvious ones of a female here. So just from the size, I can tell it's a female. I don't know if Paul can actually get it on there. So, and this is of her front foot over here and her back foot in front there. And she walked up here. She keeps going. The young males are also here. Tracks. Going. There's another very clear one. And here's quite an interesting little sign as well. So on these lion tracks, this isn't so fresh, maybe from 2 days ago, but this is some buffalo dung. And there has been a herd of buffalo that's been hanging around in this area. We're also heading close to the Mapanis as well. So the Mapanis is some thick vegetation. It's quite nuts to walk in, but great lion hunting. And the Mapanis at the moment, they got hammered by a hailstorm. So a lot of their leaves have been gone. And there's this fresh grass that's growing at the base of it. So this buffalo herd has been spending a lot of time in this Mapani, which might have attracted these lions into this area. So they kind of keep going. Another big buffalo dung. Tracks of buffalo are here as well. More buffalo dung. And here's a last track here of the lions going up. You see this little path. You see this path that they walk up? Buffalo dung all the way along here. This lion has actually stood in this buffalo dung. It hasn't kind of like set so much. It was from a couple of days ago. There's also some hyena scat over here, very white in color. I don't know if you can see that. Hyena scat, very white in color from all the calcium that they eat. One young male kind of goes up the road, but most of the tracks seem to go up this game path over here. So this, I think, is a good spot, and some of the other guides went up further north to the other road, and this is a reasonably small block. So I'm pretty sure the lions are between here, where the tracks are going into the block, and the next road, which isn't too far, I'm sure they are between here and between there. So what I'm going to do now is you're going to have to give me a little bit of time, but I'm going to probably go down for a short little walk, see if I can't find these lions, and if all things are going according to what's looking like it is happening, they might even be on a carcass here. Lots of fresh signs of buffalo, fresh signs of lions. You'll see when they are trying to hunt lions, they do require every advantage they can get, they'll take. With the younger males, maybe this is the Breakaway Pride, and there's about 8 young males that are in that pride. Great advantage to try and hunt and take down buffalo. But I'm going to go down and see if we can't pick up on some more tracks just up the road, and if I can't, I'm then going to go down for a short little walk here. Let's just do a little U-turn here. Okay, so tracks cut up there. Didn't hear anything, haven't seen any vultures or anything. You'll see if there is a carcass, maybe it's very fresh, that'll start to attract attention of vultures and hyenas, and we'll start to listen to things, particularly if it's a big carcass like a buffalo, which is going to be around for a few days. That might start attracting the attention of those scavengers, and that'll bring our attention towards it as well. See, now we're starting to get into the thick Mapanis. These ones look like they haven't been hit by the hail too hard. We're quite far north in the property at the moment. That's what's making me think that these tracks might be from the Birmingham Breakaway Pride. But I'm only going to know once we get in there.
Still not much movement, I'm afraid. I am considering quickly bumbling towards the hyena den, seeing if there's any activity and then coming back. But one thing I thought would be really interesting to touch on, going back to how often do lions sleep, there's so much more to it than that. And it's a lot to do with thermoregulation as well, when we're comparing summer and winter. And lions are sort of more heavily built than other carnivores, than any other carnivore out here in Africa. And they really do have remarkable acceleration. Okay, not quite the acceleration levels of a cheetah, but it's very remarkable for their shape and size. And they're able to wrestle down buffalo, giraffe, zebra, huge species of prey. So with all that muscle, because they are so strong, they have a lot more muscle than leopards do, than cheetahs do, they generate an enormous amount of metabolic heat. So even just walking across quarantine, an open plain, on a really hot day, that can leave them panting, especially in comparison to a cheetah. And that's because their muscles are generating more heat because they have more of them. And therefore, lions especially have a greater need to stay cool. So right now, as you know, we're in winter. But in summer, that's very often why during the day you really will not see much movement. They'll be in the shade and they'll be sleeping. And it's not because they're lazy. It's not because of any other reason. It will be because they're nocturnal, and also they really need to stay cool because of thermoregulation properties. And how do lions keep cool? Really, I mean, they actually have a really simple heat exchange across the skin.
Lauren coming for Jason.
Okay, I will come back to that point, but for now, we'll send you across to Jonty. Standing by.
Sorry, Lauren,
Okay, so we are being treated at the moment. He's sitting up now, but he's been stalking something, practicing those stalking skills. I'm assuming it's maybe a francolin or a bird in the grass, but now he's just sat up at the base of this tree. He's looked up a few times. I'm hoping he's going to jump up into the tree. That would be the most radical thing. It was cool. He gave us a few. Now, if he goes up there, that'll be so good. He did this, oh, here he goes now. I wonder if he's lost interest. It seemed like he's kind of walking a bit more boldly. His ears are focused. There's definitely something that's got his attention here. Let me just try reposition. Still see him off to my right. He's trotting now. Nice. I don't know if you see. I don't know what it is he's seen here. Yeah, there we go. You see how he stops, he keeps listening? He actually just sort of trotted to where he is now. Oh, look at that, up over the log. So it might be tricky, but I'm going to try to stay alongside him. We don't want to go too close because we definitely don't want to ruin his opportunity of getting a small meal. Like I was saying earlier, at this age, you'd definitely be able to catch a bird or a lizard, maybe even a small antelope. I've seen them catch young antelope at this sort of age. So I see him, he's actually coming back towards us. You see him there, Odie? Just to the right of that little stump. I can see the top of his head. So he might treat us now when he comes past to do an actual leopard stalk. where you see them with their stomach low on the ground. No, or he's going to run through. Yo. Here he goes again. I wonder what he's got here. There he is there. So now he's stopped over here. He's looking towards this drainage line. This is the one time where I feel so inadequate because he's so in tune and he can hear, see, smell so much better than us. Okay, we've lost his view for now. I can hear something moving in the grass. I'm just going to try find a way through this gap here. Just putting old Rusty through his paces. Did you see him walk off, Eddie? Hey. We've lost his visual now, but we're definitely going to stick around here and see if we can spot him again and see what he's up to.
The annual Safari Guide of the Year competition aims to create awareness for those men and women who dedicate their lives to tourism and wildlife. This year's event will be held at Marataba, a breathtaking privately managed section of the Marakele National Park in South Africa's Limpopo province. In celebration of this, Wild Earth and Marataba Luxury Lodges are offering all explorers a chance to win a 3-night stay at Marataba Safari Lodge for you and a friend. In addition to a spectacular land-based safari, Marataba Luxury Lodges offer an opportunity for guests to cruise peacefully along the Matlabas River, watching the animals as they drink and wallow. The lodge offers you a chance to lie by the pool or enjoy a spa treatment, and one night could be spent sleeping out under the stars in a luxurious treehouse. Sign up to be a Wild Earth explorer before the 30th of June, and it could be you heading off on a long-awaited getaway. Wild Earth Explorers. It's in your nature. For many years, Wild Earth has taken viewers from around the world to the Mara Triangle, a place of majestic beauty and abundant wildlife. But it wasn't always like this. Before 2001, it was infested with poachers. Illegal harvesting and hunting was rife. Now the situation couldn't be more different. The hard work and dedication of the Mara Conservancy has revolutionized this magical land. But now, the loss of revenue from tourism has created a grave crisis. The Mara Conservancy needs help if they are to continue protecting the reserve and supporting the local communities whose livelihood depend on its survival.
It's a huge privilege to be in these incredible places with these amazing animals. I love filming lions. When they do get up and do something, it's always spectacular. When they are playing, are incredibly fun to watch, especially sub-adults and cubs. I love being in the bush and working in these incredible places with these amazing animals. We want to bring it to you so that you can almost feel like you're right there and be able to experience it and enjoy it the way we are.
Welcome back to And Beyond Pinned, everyone, where you can see it's still raining a little bit now. We thought we'd try and come back out because we heard on the radio that the Nyoni female leopard has been found. We came out and she's just kind of disappeared into this quite a thick area on our left here, but we heard her trying to call those cubs again. So we're just going to stand by on the road here. I don't know if she's going to move all the way this side, because she was moving in and out, ducking all around, and it is starting to rain a bit now again. But yeah, quite interesting. Those cubs haven't been seen for a while, about a week and a half, and it's interesting that Mom has started to move around a bit with her cubs, so it's really, really exciting. I think Kim Bedo had them about a week ago on safari, which was really exciting. But they were seen once again this morning, so that's really cool to see that both of them are still around. We heard her trying to call them again this morning, so we'll see what happens. Benny, the cubs will... So Mom will try and spend as much time as they can with them, but when they're not around, they'll just have to sit and wait until Mom comes back. At this stage, they'll be eating a little bit of meat, but they'll be predominantly suckling. We think they're only about 3, maybe 4 months old. So at this stage, they'll be suckling quite a lot and then feeding, but that milk can sustain them quite a long time. They do really well. And sometimes even a day or two while Mum has gone out to try and find food, because she obviously has to eat quite a lot to be able to produce milk to provide for them. But she's chosen quite a lovely thick block, and we don't want to chase her through here. You can imagine with all the crashing and breaking of branches, it will possibly frighten the cubs away, which wouldn't be ideal. At this stage, the cubs are still quite nervous around vehicles. We've only seen them this is now the second time that they've been seen. And so they're still quite cautious around vehicles, and we want them to get as relaxed as possible. So we're going to probably head back towards the lodge now. The rain is picking up again, and Grant is actually in the area trying to see if he can find the Nyoni cubs again, and if they are found and the rain stops, then we'll be back with you guys. But we're going to send you off to Lauren, who's at Juma.
We did check the hyena den. Do I even need to say it? I shall. It's not active. But we tried. I think it's worth just coming at different times throughout the day, especially if you're in the vicinity, and we are in the vicinity. The lines are not too far away. They're not at the complete opposite side. But it's not active. If I was a hyena cub, I would absolutely be snoozing inside of that den. I would not be popping my head out. But we shall head back to the Nkuhumas, or at least 5 of them. did read that there was a buffalo kill somewhere, but those tummies didn't look like they were full of buffalo, that's for sure. So we'll go back to the lions, and I imagine they'll still be snoozing, but at least we can spend some time with them. Davi's got the right technique there, standing up, avoiding the bumps. This road is not fun. At least I played Mario Kart growing up. That was a large part of my childhood on the Nintendo. Mario Kart taught me everything I needed to know about driving. Amy, you're asking, do we ever find the remains of a predator? I'm guessing you mean a dead predator. I guess you can do, but it's highly unlikely. We have found a dead lion before who had passed away of natural causes, but it is quite unlikely. Predators will then come and eat, of course, that carcass. If it's a lion, even lions will eat it, hyenas will eat it, a leopard would eat it. Aerial sort of predators, your raptors would come in, vultures would come in. So yes, absolutely, we can find them, but it's very rare. I think back in the past, Davi, you once found lion cub, is that right, on Bushwalk? Yeah. Was it the Nkahoma Pride? Nkahoma Pride, a dead cub. So it's definitely possible, but it is really quite rare to find dead ones. Okay, we're going to head back as fast as we can to the Nkahoma Pride, but for now, over to JP.
Good morning and welcome back on Bushwalk. At the moment we are battling to see tracks on the ground because of a poor light. As we mentioned already, one of the things that you always want to get right is light. And normally when you're looking at tracks, you want to put the track between yourself and the sun so that it can shine up very nicely. Sometimes we also make use of a torch, especially when you are tracking at night or through a camp. Now, a few of the other things that we've seen, seeing that we can't see the track so clearly, is the signs of a number of different species that's moved through here. Firstly, there's a little gnaw mark that we have over here of a squirrel that deposited a marula kernel right over here after he opened it up and took out that little nut that's in the inside. So people also quite enjoy these nuts. We quite often see them that they break them open. And especially in the Palabora area, in the past, ladies used to have a special little tool that they used to carry around their neck to open up these marula kernels. The nut is also incredibly high in vitamin E oil content, and you can use it to moisturize. It's also quite often used in the making of modern cosmetics as well. So when we look at squirrels, they are actually rodents. And just like the porcupines that I'm going to point out now, they also have teeth that's continuously growing and rubbing over one another, and that keeps them incredibly sharp and enables them to feed through incredibly hard things such as this marula kernel. So I just want to point out the porcupine dung right over here. They normally make little hairy-like segments, generally red-brownish in coloration, and they tend to stick to one another, and they're quite fibrous if you do break them open. So it's also known as actually the largest rodent species in Africa. So just to come back to porcupines, we do find a lot of their tracks around here. However, the track hasn't been showing up very nicely this morning, so I'm just going to focus on this. I do find them incredibly fascinating in terms that they can eat incredibly toxic plants and bulbs. So we mentioned yesterday a number of different plant species which utilizes toxins to prevent that animals will feed on them. And it seems that the porcupine is quite immune against that. Other than just feeding on toxic plants such as mtambuti around the roots, they often ringbark these trees as well. They also will feed on the bones of animals that has been died a long time ago. Good morning and welcome to the show. And to answer your question, it's quite difficult to say how many, but we do find a lot of tracks over here. And what we find quite fascinating is this, what I told Craig earlier on, is how far these porcupines actually travel in a single night from the feeding and sleeping areas. Some of the interesting things that I do find about porcupines is their quills and their coloration. They're black and white in colored, which is also warning colors, as we discussed warning colors of a number of insects earlier in the show. And that will also be a warning to predators to stay away from them. So some of the other strategies that porcupines also employ to deter predators is to rattle the quills, to raise them also to make themselves look larger. So the noise combined with making themselves larger makes them a little bit more intimidating. Then they also hiss and they also stamp their feet as a strategy to chase away predators. Over the years, I've actually seen a number of lions, African wild dogs, hyenas and leopards that have ended up full of these porcupine quills. And it must be incredibly painful once those break off. I think in one of the previous episodes I actually mentioned some of the students that I was training a few years ago. One of them wasn't as mature as what he should have been, and he picked up a porcupine quill and he decided to jab the other one at the backside with a quill. Part of it broke off and I had to take him to the doctor to actually get a tetanus injection, because there's quite a lot of harmful bacteria on these quills as well, which if they are dislodged inside one's body, it often sets up septicemia. And quite often when it comes to animals, they learn through painful association, and next time they avoid that specific species of animal or insect which they have learned to associate with in terms of color. We're going to continue. Let's go and see what we can go and find. Good morning, Amber. There's a number of species that I do avoid on bushwalks. Most of them I'm quite confident around them. The ones that I'm particularly careful of is buffalo, but you won't believe it. The animal that I'm actually the most afraid of is actually an ostrich. If they do decide that they're going to chase you, and they come for you, there's no ways that you can stop them. And I would not like to be on the receiving end of those incredibly strong legs and big feet and an incredibly large nail that's in the tip of that foot. And they can come very, very quickly towards you, as they can run over 65 to 70 kilometers per hour when they start running at you. In general, I will give all animals a lot of respect and a lot of personal space. And I personally believe that even the smallest of animals need to be given the same amount of respect as that the large and dangerous ones should be given. So we're going to continue, and in the meanwhile, we're going to send you back to Lauren and Juma and see what she has on offer.
I'm almost back at the lions, but I think Ravi and I need to do something very important first, and that is eat our words. We need to pick them up and eat them. We always criticize this road. What do we call it, Davi? Road of nothing. Actually, that was a James Hendry thing, to be very honest. Mendoza Road is a road of nothing. We never see anything on this road, and it's just barren and empty and, well, not so fun to drive. But now the Nkuhumas are on it, so... Davi, are you going to eat your words? Eat them. We did it. We take it back, Mendoza. You're not the road of nothing. You really are not. You have lions. I'm just trying to think how to position. They've all got their heads up. Hello. It's a little bit better than seeing you guys sleeping. Look at the tufts of hair. They are mini, mini mane. I can't entirely remember what I was saying earlier, but it was about thermoregulation. And animals can lose heat in ways that are not immediately obvious to us. So heat exchange will always happen through the skin barrier, same with us. Panting, we know, evaporative cooling, dogs do that, cats do that. But you will see lions lick their forelimbs a lot. And yes, they're grooming, but also forelimbs are actually highly vascular. And what that does mean is that licking them can help cool them down again through evaporative cooling because there's a large vascular system there. Now, when you see lions roll on their back, which is terribly cute, especially when Darkmane does it, he's not really trying to be cute, believe it or not. The sort of really thin skin on their tummy, especially in a male lion, below the mane, where there's not so much hair, that's also a really large thermal window. Big surface area, thin skin. So on a hot day, when they're rolling on their back like that, they're actually trying to lose heat. And that's not immediately obvious straight away. Look at your mini mane. It's fabulous. And talking of mane, that will of course affect males and their thermoregulation. Because potentially it can sort of increase the body surface temperature, all that thick hair, especially in summer. But in winter, I would definitely want to have a mane if I could choose. And of course, the mane is what we refer to as the handicap principle. It's a hypothesis which really states that certain traits of a species, which would maybe assume to make them weaker, having a big, huge, thick mane of hair in summer in the low veld does not seem like it would have any advantages naturally. Or even a peacock. And a peacock, all those feathers and the fancy sort of colours and dances, you would think that it's very cumbersome. And it would may even reduce that species' chance of survival. But they manage to survive despite that, don't they? Depending on whatever trait you're talking about, they're all surviving. And that's, of course, for sexual selection. They're showing the females, look at me, this is cumbersome. I'm weighed down with all these feathers or all this hair, and I'm surviving and thriving. So that means that I'm strong. I've got the best genes. Pick me. Sometimes it's just nice to sit in silence and watch them. They're sleepy, but they put their heads up. Hello, beautiful. I remember when we first found some of Pangolin cubs. 2 years ago now, one by one, we all started to slowly find the cubs and created a lot of excitement in camp. And slowly but surely, new litters arrived. It was really quite something. Pangolins have done incredibly well with their cubs. And of course, new ones are believed to have arrived to the Pride. Well, P, you're asking which male lion do I think has the best mane? My goodness. I do have a soft spot for dark mane. I've had a lot of sightings with that male. I often find him, and again, this is just my personal observation, but I find his personality a little bit more gentle. There's really quite something about dark mane, and I think his mane is magnificent. They're all quite dark now, of course. When lions come into their prime, the manes get darker, but I think he's the most magnificent. He's quite an entertaining lion. But I've also got a soft spot for Blondie. I just haven't seen Blondie in a very long time. Oh, we're getting up. Well, they don't look that full. No, we're going back down again. It wasn't that fun standing up. Going back to the cubs, it was ridge-nosed boys that we found first in May 2019. 2 years ago exactly. And then it was amber eyes at the very start of July in 2019. And then purple eye, she was in August of the same year. And then Chella, her 4 little tiny cubs that we found very early on. Sadly, she lost 3 of them, but we found them in December, so it's quite staggered from May to December of the same year. It was a lot of cubs, a big boost for the Oklahoma Pride. Mujo. Hi, Mujo. You're asking about the whiskers. Now, it's not just lions, of course. Whiskers are prevalent across the animal kingdom, but the official term is actually vibrissae. We call them whiskers, which is a lovely name, but they're actually called vibrissae. And, well, they're a type of hair, really, at the end of the day. A very stiff hair and a very functional one, but they are just hairs. And they're used by the cats to sort of sense their environment around them. Now, their specialized hairs are obviously not the same as the ones covering the body, and they're a lot coarser, but they're basically tactile sensors. So they're very long. They extend past the sort of face of the animal. And especially for nocturnal animals, they allow them to sense the environment around them where it's maybe dark and they cannot see, so they can judge, are they going to fit between this space in between these 2 trees, or are we going to sort of get stuck? And they basically guide the animal through their functions, so they're sensory functional hairs. Almost like antenna on an insect, really. Same, but different. And that's exactly what lions use them, helping the lion to understand their environment. I love that quote, if a lion could talk, we would still not understand him. So, of course, there's many different languages across the world, but let's just use English, because I'm talking English right now. If a lion could speak English, we would still not understand them, and that's because we really struggle to understand how a lion is a lion. We don't have that same sensory experience or that same sensory input. We don't have whiskers. We don't understand chemicals in the air. We don't sort of use or have an organ of Jacobson. We don't smell each other's urine to understand what state they're in. We don't have great night vision. They don't have a cute hearing like the cats do. So how can we really understand what it's like to be a lion? I think that's a great quote. We try our very best to understand them from a scientific and biological point of view, but do we? Can we really put ourselves in the mind of a lion? Thomas Nagal also made a great quote about bats. Can we really understand bats? No, not really. Can we really understand what it's like to use echolocation? Yes, we have technology and all these machines and equipment, but really, I don't think we even understand half of it. I think it's always important to remember that there's so much we probably are missing. Although thinking of lions talking English is rather entertaining. I wonder what they would say. I wonder what accent they would have. Hello, matey. I have to share that with you. Our director Elton said they would say roar. That's also possible. Roar. But all joking apart, it goes back to how differently they sense their environment than we do. And their whiskers, going back to the original question, that adds to part of their sensory experience. They also have vibrissae on their eyebrows as well. And they don't really have eyebrows, but you know, the hairs above their eye. Now I'm thinking about English-speaking lions with eyebrows. The image is getting better in my mind. I can see blue sky now. That's wonderful news. Possibly it's going to get a little bit warmer. Oh, he's going to give you some visuals of the beautiful blue sky. During winter, it can get hot. The temperatures can reach sort of sunbathing temperatures, shall we say. But it really does get extremely hot for a short period during the day, as your morning and your evenings that are really, really chilly. And naturally, sound travels further in cold temperatures. So sometimes in the morning when we do hear lions calling, or leopards sawing, or a hyena whooping, it actually becomes a lot more difficult to judge where they're coming from. I'll never forget when I was training with Jamie Patterson, we could hear lions, and she said, I am adamant that sound is coming from Sandy Patch. I didn't know the reserve that well, but I said, yeah, Sandy Patch. But it turns out they were very, very far west on Simbambili. The sound just travelled a lot further and sounded like it was extremely close. That's always something to keep in mind during winter. So we're going to sit here and enjoy our inkohumas. Hopefully soon they might get active.
Fascinating and charismatic, these scaly-skinned mammals are one of the world's most elusive creatures. Here are some unique facts about pangolins. Pangolins have long, sticky tongues that can grow up to 1/3 of their body length. This is to help scoop up their prey. pangolins walk on their knuckles so they can protect their claws. A baby pangolin is called a pango pup, and it rides on its mother's back for the first year of its life. A pangolin is the most heavily trafficked wild mammal in the world and is seriously threatened by extinction. Join 4 leading conservation specialists live on Saturday, June 5th as they discuss this unique animal and the threats it is faced with. Founded in 1973, the Endangered Wildlife Trust has consistently and effectively worked towards achieving our conservation legacy. Contribute to this legacy by visiting EWT's Get Wild eShop and purchase products with a purpose.
My name is Steve, and one of my favorite things at Wild Earth is getting questions from you. The type of questions that I really like are those ones that really help us to unpack and understand and really integrate the ecological knowledge and fully appreciate the importance that animals such as these Cape buffalo bring to the ecosystem. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, you're going to have to register on the website. But once registered, just head on over to the live safari page and enter your question under the live feed.
Guys, have a look at what we've got. This is better than my birthday. Look at that. This is the first time that I ever see cubs this small. This is so special. This has officially just become my best sighting of all times.
Tune into Wild Earth every single day. It's in your nature.
Good morning and welcome back to Bushwalk. We just got a little spot over here and there's a large amount of tracks of a number of different species that has come through here. One of the tracks that I found over here is one of a white-tailed mongoose. You can see it's got a slightly slanted pad here at the back, and the fingers over here, or toes, and then the nails marking in the tip. This is also one of the largest of a night-active mongoose species. It's quite easy to identify by its larger size and the combination of a white-tailed tip. Some of the other things that we've also noticed over here is the tracks of the porcupine. And here we can see 1, 2, 3 parts of the intermediate pad. Unfortunately, the back pad became smudged. But what we also find is that there's also little tracks of the quills that are marking over the ground where the quills have been dragging. Another species that we found over here is African civet. It's generally a fairly round track, round little lobes here at the back, round toes, and there we can see the marking of a nail that is also marked in the track. There's another track that I would like to point out to you, and that's of a jackal, which is right over here. For me, jackal is a fairly interesting one. I always got taught when I started tracking that it looks like a Christmas tree. If you can see over here, there's the base of a Christmas tree, and there's our first branch, our second branch, and our 3rd and 4th branch forming the top of our little Christmas tree. And right over here, you can see the tip of a nail. Typically with the dogs, you'll just notice that there's 2 lobes at the back, unlike that of cats that generally has 3 lobes and lack nail markings. You can see this jackal continued walking right over here, and then he actually came to lie down in this area, and he has rolled over here a few times. You can see the fine impressions of the hairs marking inside this track where he's laid down as well, and then we can see where he got up and then moved off. And then right over here again, we've got more tracks of a porcupine that has come also into this area where it's more clearly dragged over the markings on the soil over here. Something else which I've also noticed over here, there's a little conical pit that belongs to antlion larvae, and the larvae itself is a predator of ants, as the name implies, and they generally wait for ants to fall into these little pits. and then they'll flick sand up, catch them, and then they'll basically pierce them with their very sharp mouth parts and suck the fluids out of them. Something else that I've just noticed, but right over here, tiny little tracks. And you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, it looks like 5 or 4. And this is the feet impression that's been left by a small little rodent, most likely a mouse or a little gerbil that's come past here as well. It's just amazing how this little patch that we've looked at, with less than a square meter, had so many different animals that came through here last night. So we're going to continue and see what we can find. And in the meanwhile, we're going to hand you over to Lauren.
I am with the lions, but we have also spotted a butterfly. A dancing acria is what we know this butterfly as. But, Picky, you let me know not so long ago, thank you very much, as always, that it's now been reclassified, and it's a dancing Telchinia. I'm going to go with Telchinia. So it's been completely reclassified, and it's no longer called an acria, which is, wow, fascinating. I have to say, most likely for the best part, we probably will say acria here. But Carl Linnaeus, the Swedish biologist, at least I think he was Swedish, he is the one who sort of came up with taxonomy, classification of animals. But as we learn, as we progress and gather more information and more genetics and more knowledge, some animals naturally have to be reclassified. And clearly the dancing acria is one of them. Dancing Telchinia. There you have it. It's definitely not dancing right now, that's for sure. It doesn't even look very alive, but I can promise you it is. It's just not quite warm enough yet. It's not solar powered. But Picky, thank you for that information. I just thought I would share it with you all. There's definitely a handful of insects still around, but really, the buzz of summer is gone, which saddens me a little bit. I mean, I didn't always enjoy the dung beetles flying into your eye as you drive, or the small little bugs going up your nostrils, or the stink bugs landing in your food. I definitely didn't enjoy those moments, however. It's always sad when the insects disappear. The lions are not sad, though. That's for sure. I'm really, really hoping that these lions will be around this afternoon. Vernon, you're asking...
Why are the lion's ears black?
Oh, why are the ears black at the tip? Uh-huh. Very good question. This is part of the follow me signs that a lot of organisms, especially, well, most mammals have in the animal kingdom. Leopards have a black and white tip of the tail. Waterbuck have that gorgeous white bum circle that looks like they've been sitting on the toilet seat for too long. Even impala, they have a lovely sort of M-shape black and white design on their rear end, and it's always black or white, which they're not technically colors, I guess. They're classified as shades, and it's follow me signs, so you will find that someone's rolling over. You will find that it's useful for cubs or offspring or young to follow mum or keep up with the herd, especially when the herd is moving quickly or running. How do you see one another? How do you spot one another? They look for that sign. Even if it's not part of a herd life or a pride life or a sort of collective group. Let's take a leopard, for example. The cubs still need to follow mom through long grass, through difficult terrain. Mom's a lot taller than you when you're a tiny little 6-week-old cub, so you follow the tail, you follow the black and white shades that really stand out against the environment here, and that's how you're able to keep up with mom at such a small size. Even if you're not an impala lamb, even if you're an adult impala, and there's danger nearby and you must flee, it's easy to keep an eye on where everyone is by looking at the black and white colours. So going back to the question, the black ears, the tips of a lion's ears is exactly the same. If you've ever watched lions, especially in winter, in this colour of grass, hunting or stalking, and they're all separated, they're cooperatively communicating with one another through body language and posture, but they're silent. They have to be, because they're stalking prey. If they go flat in the grass, it's very difficult to see them, especially in winter in this coloration of grass, but you will pick out immediately the black tips of the ears. You will immediately see the lions, just the black tips, and you will know, aha, that's where they are. And the same goes for the lions, as how they spot one another. So really, it's a form of visual communication, I guess. But it's prevalent throughout the animal kingdom. And even the black sort of floof at the end of the tail, again, it's the same as a leopard. It's the same thing, follow me. They use it to communicate with the cubs and show the cubs the way. This dancing acria or dancing telchinia is adamant not to move. Get a nice two-shot there, Davy, of the paw and the insect. Look at that. Little and large. Okay, as we sit with our sleepy Ngala, we're going to send you across to Dan, who's at Ngala.
Welcome back, everybody. So we spent a large portion of the morning, pretty much the whole morning, tracking lions, and I don't know if we kind of got separated into two separate sets of lions. The last update that we gave, we were kind of cutting between the one block towards a boundary of ours, and I got off and I spent the next half an hour or so, 20 minutes, trying to track and follow them on foot. And we followed, and then they actually crossed over a boundary of ours into the Timavati. So, yeah, I'm not sure which pride that is, or which pride it was. Very likely it could be the Breakaway Pride, kind of going into the northern parts or the southern parts of the Timavati and crossing out of our northern boundary. It seems as if they were following a herd of buffalo. I was pointing out the buffalo dung that was there earlier. It wasn't so fresh, but that buffalo herd has been hanging around there, feeding on the lots of new shoots that have been allowed to grow underneath the mapanis that have been hit by the hail. So you'll see when buffalo herds do come through certain territories, they are nomadic and they're constantly moving, following food and following water. You'll see lions will follow those herds, particularly if they're in their territory, will follow those herds, often for days at a time, waiting for maybe some of the weaker ones to kind of fall back, maybe some of the calves that aren't healthy to fall back. You'll see one of the strategies that the buffalo have to kind of defend against that is that they'll put the bigger, stronger, maybe some of the older bulls on the peripheries of the herd to kind of protect the herd. The big, strong bulls, exactly what they are, big and strong, and can often have a little bit of a temper to them. So they're not hanging around. If they hear or see something, they'll often go to investigate. And if it is a lion, they'll often try and chase it away. Lions rely so much on their sense of camouflage and element of surprise. So once that is kind of gone, they might sit down and wait. They'll often wait for the cover of darkness as well to kind of launch an attack. And just because it makes their lives much easier to be undetected. So a bit of a bumpy road here. So I've kind of left that area. The lions have crossed out of our property for now, not to say that they won't be back, and maybe that buffalo herd does a little loop back. Kimberly, do we rely more on tracks or sounds? Tracks and sounds actually go together hand in hand. There's tracks and signs and sounds. Particularly on this property, we rely a lot on tracks. And you'll see if you're getting a little bit closer, you've got to use your ears. And now when tracking lions, whether it be a roar or a growl, that can bring your attention towards them. You've got to be listening out to alarm calls. When I was walking, following the tracks this morning, there were squirrels that were alarm calling. And I thought that was a really good sign. I was like, okay, cool. Lions aren't too far away from here. That squirrel must very likely be alarming at the lions, because it seemed like the tracks were very fresh. I did do a loop around. The tracks didn't come out the block when I did the loop around, but when I ended up walking, they ended up crossing out. So when I was listening to the squirrel, I was like super alert, super aware, and taking the next few steps slowly as to be certain that I'm not going to startle those lions and those lions aren't going to startle me. So you've got to take that into account. Squirrels, not always the best alarmers, they will alarm call at lions and leopards. They will also alarm call at people sometimes, so it might have been a me from a distance away. Birds of prey, snakes. So squirrels, and even like a little rustle in the grass, a squirrel will alarm at. So you'll kind of listen and be quite in tune as to which alarm calls are more reliable than others. Kudu's alarm calling, very, very reliable. Bushbuck alarm calls, very reliable. Impala alarm calls at this time of the year won't be as reliable as usual. You'll see when the males are rutting, it sounds a lot like an alarm call, and you can tell the difference between a rat and an alarm call. But once they finish chasing each other and rutting and running around kind of aimlessly, you'll see them stop and often just randomly alarm call, just in case there's a predator around. But that'll kind of subside in the next few weeks or months. So yeah, particularly at Ngada, we use tracks, the actual tracks of the animals, a lot to try and find them because the blocks are so big. And then you've got to use the other puzzle pieces and everything else to your advantage, whether it be sounds or signs, like whether it be that a leopard's been scent marking on a bush or a tree. You can smell how strong it is, and it's got that very kind of like popcorn smell to it. So if you're walking past, you're busy tracking leopard, and you can smell very fresh popcorn like on a bush, you know that that leopard's close by, and you've used that sign to your advantage. So yeah, tracks, signs, sounds, all of them kind of go together in this big kind of art of tracking. And I'm no tracker by all means, but we work with some of the best trackers in the industry. And to watch them at work is really amazing. I learn an unbelievable amount. I love getting off on foot and spending time on foot with these people who, this is their job. They are trackers and they've done it their whole lives. It's an incredible skill to learn and develop. And once you really get off on foot and you watch and you try and track yourself, you realize just how difficult it is. It's easy to track an animal when it's walking on the road, but when it cuts off the road and starts walking in the grass, it's very difficult. You'll see when it does do that, the mornings can sometimes be a little bit easier to track and find, just because you'll see there's dew on the grass, and you can kind of see where the dew has been pushed down from fresher tracks compared to older tracks. If you're trying to track in the afternoon, no dew, and maybe even an elephant, people think tracking an elephant is easy, but it is incredibly difficult. They can cover huge distances, walk very carefully and quietly. Oh, there's some warthogs. Let's see if we can get them on. And speaking of these elephant tracks on the road, yeah. So when an elephant's walking in the road, you can even see on that right-hand track there, I don't know if you can see those kind of like big circles. So elephants can be reasonably easy to track when they're on the road, but when they cut off, and particularly when you've got such large numbers of elephants moving around through your property, it's very difficult to determine which is fresh, which is old, which is going in which direction. Mimi, how do I tell the difference between an alarm call and an animal's normal call? It is experience and spending time out here. The calls are, those warthogs seem to have run away, unfortunately. The calls are different. So an impala alarm call is very different. To me, it sounds like someone like blowing quite quickly out of your nose, and then like normal calls, like the females talking to the lambs. It's like this quite soft little, like almost like a burping noise. Then the ratting is very much like a harsh, raw, I guess you could call it raw. So those are big differences. Squirrels alarm calling, very obvious. Birds as well. Birds can be a trickier one. Birds really takes a lot of experience and because birds have got lots of different calls, and you'll see the same bird in different regions giving different parts of the call, which can make it quite tricky, and then there's a separate call for an alarm. So it's just really experience and understanding what sounds mean what from which animals. So I'm coming up to a watering hole. There are quite a few tracks. We saw those tracks of elephants over there. I wonder if there aren't some elephants coming down to this watering hole to have a drink. Might be some hippos in there as well. Let's see. Some fresh elephant dung in the road there as well. That's all part of tracking as well. Dung, smells, hair. Let's see if we've got anything at the watering hole. You'll see at this time of the day, as winter progresses and the water starts to dry up around, will be a real good time to come and see some of the general game. Oh, there's some hippos here. Let's just come in here a bit slower. Oh, they've stood up here. There's a little one in the middle. Small pod of hippos. Just seeming to take it easy. There's been quite a lot of hippo tracks around the reserve. They seem to be covering large distances in the evenings before they come back to a watering hole like this to spend the day resting and kind of sleeping. Otherwise, it seems to be quite quiet around the watering hole. So I'm going to quickly have a good look around this watering hole, see if there aren't any signs of anything coming through here last night or in the near future, if anything's coming towards us.
The annual Safari Guide of the Year competition aims to create awareness for those men and women who dedicate their lives to tourism and wildlife. This year's event will be held at Marataba, a breathtaking privately managed section of the Marakele National Park in South Africa's Limpopo province. In celebration of this, Wild Earth and Marataba Luxury Lodges are offering all explorers a chance to win a 3-night stay at Marataba Safari Lodge for you and a friend. In addition to a spectacular land-based safari, Marataba Luxury Lodges offer an opportunity for guests to cruise peacefully along the Matlabas River, watching the animals as they drink and wallow. The lodge offers you a chance to lie by the pool or enjoy a spa treatment, and one night could be spent sleeping out under the stars in a luxurious treehouse. Sign up to be a Wild Earth explorer before the 30th of June, and it could be you heading off on a long-awaited getaway. Wild Earth Explorers. It's in your nature.
And I find getting out to a local royal park brings me so much closer to nature. I can leave my pain at home. And like watching Wild Earth, I find it's the most amazing way to step out of life's difficulties and just breathe.
The chirping and fluttering of these Java finches at the feeder in our garden helps us start each day joyfully in connection with nature.
So this is our piece of nature that we've been enjoying and has been keeping us sane during lockdown. This morning we have 8 oyster catchers on our beach, which is a real treat. Hug a tree, Steve, just for you.
Hi everyone, my name's Daniel Fisher and I'm going to be your guide this afternoon. I'm looking really forward to taking you through and showing you all the beautiful places here at and beyond Ngala. If you have any questions, please register on our website. Once registered, go to the live page feed and post your questions underneath the live feed. Join me on my next safari through and beyond Ngala on Wild Earth. Send me live questions through the Wild Earth website and I'll answer them live from the African bush.
I got asked earlier about the Talamatis and dark mane. is at Sydney's Dam, his usual spot. He really does love Sydney's Dam. So I imagine the Talamak is a Runpuffel's hook in answer to that question that I got earlier. But this afternoon it means great promise, and I just wonder if the rest of the Pride or those sort of reunite in a way. It would be lovely to see all of the Nkuhumas and not just 2.5. And if it does get hot, if it really does warm up, they will sleep most of the day and start to get active as usual in the afternoon. There's nothing quite like being amongst lions when they're contact calling for one another. It's one of the most incredible feelings. And we, of course, get to share it with all of you guys. Guys and girls, of course. And what a morning it's been. Marib's on Juma, Nkuhuma's on Juma, and Mendoza is no longer the road of nothing. Wow, what a welcome back. But in saying that, I am going to investigate if there really is a buffalo carcass, find out exactly where it is. Because if there's a buffalo carcass, I imagine most of the Juma clan will be there. And that's where I want to be. Sorry, there's a question there from Darcy Miller. If you could just repeat that question, Elton. Oh, the Batelier. I just got it. Do I have plans to go see the Batelier? Yes, absolutely. And I'm slightly disappointed that I didn't make it there this morning. We obviously came across lion tracks and got swept away on that momentum. But yes, Darcy Miller, 100%. I have missed that little chick, and I do believe it's starting to fly, starting to stretch its wings, just as we predicted. It's definitely around the nine week mark, or maybe 10 now. But 100% I shall be there. I really have grown very fond of that chick. We've actually had some wonderful sort of chick encounters where we've really been able to dig deep into the lives of that bird species, from the spotted eagle owl, as you all know, and the Batelier, and even those helmet shrikes. It was such a fascinating sighting that we had, watching them being fed by the chin-spot batis. I mean, I've never seen anything like that, and from all my research that I could do, not many other people had seen anything like that either, so it was really special. Those white-crested helmet shrike chicks being fed by a chin-spot batis, and we got it all on camera. We've been really lucky with birds out here, so yes, I will absolutely go and check on my little chickadee. So what a welcome back it has been. So from Darby and I, thank you for jumping on board. We are going to head back to breakfast, and you guys are going to head over to Ngala.
Welcome back, everybody, and it is getting closer to the end of drive, and I've just stuck around this watering hole for this short moment, watching these hippos that seem to be kind of a little bit restless before finding a place to sleep, and they'll sleep exactly where they are, and you'll see them kind of float up and down. They will kind of sink to the bottom. They can hold their breath. Some books will say 6 minutes, but it's not always as long as that, maybe a bit shorter than that. Go down to the bottom, kind of have a snooze, float to the top, have a breath, then go back down, and so on and so forth. And that's how they would sleep. And according to us, that would be a pretty restless night's sleep, if you ask me. But I guess it's all relative. If that's all you've ever known, must be all right, actually. Just having a good look around the watering hole as well. There's some impalas on the far side of the watering hole that have come down to have a drink. I don't even know if we can see them here. There's quite a big watering hole and they are far away. But you'll see at this time of the day, during winter time, when the water around the property starts to really dry up, this is pretty much the only watering hole in and around the eastern part of our property. And even going much further up into the Kruger Park, there's not much water. So you'll see animals covering huge distances to come down to have a drink and then going all the way back. And they might do that every day or even every second day, coming down. And you'll see if you come down past the watering hole this time, you can often see large numbers of general game, including your impalas and wildebeest and zebras and things like that. And you'll see an area like this used to be very well known for animals like sable and roan. So much so that back in the day they even used to shoot sable and roan for rations for the staff. And that just kind of is a mind-blowing fact because you don't see any of them around here ever. And oh, sorry, a hornbill nearly just flew into us. And yeah, and it's one of the more special animals to see if you're driving through the Kruger Park. You see a sable or a roan, you know you're in some seriously good luck, and they are beautiful animals. And one of the reasons were that sable and roan are not water-dependent animals. They don't really rely on water to drink every day, and they also rely on quite tall grass to hide their young. So you'll see this place 100 years ago, or 80 years ago even, they didn't have big watering holes, and this one is no exception. This one was in fact built by the previous landowner and kind of dug a little trench into drainage lines that will store water. And when you do build watering holes like this, you bring all sorts of water-dependent animals in, including your impala and your wildebeest and your lions and your leopards, who also depend on it, and they prey and feed on those animals. Those animals also eat the grass, and they shorten the level of the grass, taking away the area that sable and roan can then hide their young. And then with the excess numbers of lions and leopards that have also moved into the area, they'll then take them out. So it's amazing that this water has completely changed this environment and changed the animals that we find and we see around here. And now, from used to be seeing lots of sable and roan to not seeing one or any of those in many, many, many years. They might come through every now and then, but it'll almost be like they are a little bit lost. But it is a beautiful place to just sit and watch and listen. The hippos are moving around. I reckon if you sat here throughout the day today, you'd probably see quite a lot of general game come down and have a drink. You often might find predators hanging around on the peripheries, kind of waiting for these prey species to come down and have a drink. They will be super alert though when they're coming down to have a drink. Okay, everybody. Well, it's been an amazing morning. Leopards and lions at Djuma. We've done a hard search for lions here, but I'll see you guys this afternoon.